So is raw authenticity profitable? And you know, because obviously we're facing this big fear, and a part of that, if you're in a business, it's like, this is gonna keep people away from my business, right? I think at least it was some of the things that I thought, and sometimes I still think about, right? To be fully transparent. And then obviously now with AI, right? How do we now, you know, tackle this challenge, right? I don't want to say huge challenge, but I think for a lot of people it's a huge challenge in the age of AI, right? Can we be authentic still with AI? How do we spot that authenticity? How do we create that authenticity? How do we leverage maybe this tool? Maybe we don't leverage the tool and we're authentic. And even by conquering that challenge, can we be profitable in our business, right? So I think like I want to go down that route for a little bit and see what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So I love this. I think about this often, right? And truthfully, AI is probably one of the best advancements that we've existed, but the thing that it doesn't replace is emotion. It gives the logic. It doesn't get the emotion, because AI can't talk about that one day I sent you to a video in tears and what it made me feel.
Yeah.
It can give me the details of the story, but it can't give me that emotional connection, right? And I think in the lens of content, and let's put content in a marketing bucket, right? What's the point of marketing? Number one, it's to get visibility. Once you have the visibility, it's to nurture that visibility at depth and then convert it into a conversation or into something there. And every human being requires safety to make a decision.
Yeah.
But how do you feel safe based on logic? You don't. Like when you're making purchases in your life, you're not looking for features and benefits. You're looking like, can I trust this person with my money? What are they going to do when it gets hard? Are they going to be here when the time comes? Are they responding to my messages or ghosting me before I ever pay? Right? There's so many parts and pieces that we collect evidence on to really authentically feel safe. And so I love AI, but here's the other thing I love. It's forcing the filter, because all of us can spot AI content from a mile away, right? Because the one thing it can't share is our perspective. And even if you train it, and I've trained a few of them, every day I get new details and experiences in my life.
Yeah.
And the way that I relate and articulate that is what causes emotion in people, right? And so AI is great, but it still requires connection. And I always like filter this through the real life scenario, right? Like how many of us have been in those restaurants where everything's done on an iPad? And then you like go to ask the waiter, you're like, can I get this? Oh, order it on the iPad. And you're like just craving a conversation. You're like, hey, can you just give me a Coke Zero, bro? Yeah. Like, do I have to hit 17 buttons? Right? Like you're standing right here, right?
Yeah.
We crave these things in our life. And I think AI is great, but what it's also doing is forcing the cream to the top, because with the rise of access to information, it's also forcing the one thing that everybody's been hiding behind information for, which is authentic connection.
Yeah.
And if you look at people's buying processes, and everybody I coach that makes content, right? Because everyone I coach makes content, right? Yeah. Webinars aren't working anymore. Automations aren't working anymore, right? These processes aren't working anymore. Lead magnets aren't working anymore. And I was like, well, I wonder why. And I'm like, what is working? They're like, the moment I connect with somebody.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, then what, right? Because all that information is still lacking that human connection.
Yeah.
And so that human connection is the invitation, right? Because to our point earlier, is that if you're authentic, you win in the game that nobody else can touch, which is depth.
Yeah.
Right. And business is built on depth and content is built on depth. Right. But there's a depth of like connection, and somebody needs to know who they're connecting with. Right. And nobody can do that. Just like as much as I can logically explain what your brother did, like in that conversation, the way that you did it is your art. That's what created the connection with your partner, right? AI can't do that. Can you imagine like, hey, here's every skeleton in my closet. Please craft a conversation for me to share with my partner.
Yeah.
So that she doesn't leave me. And you would read it and you'd be like, well, nope, that ain't going to work.
It comes back saying, it's like, do not do that.
Yeah. And so like the way that I look at AI is an incredible tool to build the resources or information that used to take our time to connect with people to allow us more time to connect with people.